Alright, before I do this review, I just want to do a quick little primer for the Pacific Rim toy line. Pacific Rim was an awesome movie, and it had some really cool giant mech designs, which they called Jaegers. And the toy line was, of course, taken up by NECA. Practically everybody knows this by now. So let's do a quick little talk about the two figures that came in the first wave before I get on to the one that I'm going to be talking about here. The first mech was Gypsy Danger, the American Jaeger. He looks amazing, something like a cross between the Fox Sport Robot and Green Lantern Stell. He has a fantastic sculpt and paint job, but he's not very posable. He has all the articulation, but the way he's sculpted, his parts get in the way of the joints, so he doesn't really have a lot of clearance and therefore can't pose very well. The second Jaeger in the line was Crimson Typhoon, the Chinese Jaeger. He is a lot more posable than Gypsy Danger. He has all the great articulation, and his sculpt allows his joints to be free enough to take on a lot of cool action poses. With the mono-eye cylinder head and one huge arm, he's actually vaguely reminiscent of Shockwave from Transformers. If you can let the asymmetry in the three-arm design get past your obsessive-compulsive disorder, this is also a great figure. But I don't own him. So let's move on to the figure that I actually do have from this line. And that is, of course, going to be Striker Eureka, the Australian Jaeger. From the movie, Striker Eureka was definitely my favorite. Mostly because out of the four main mechs from that show, this is the one that most looks like it stepped out of a classic anime. He has all the sharp angles, he has the big wing pack on the back that doesn't really seem to do much. I mean, it probably has like booster rockets in there to help him tackle Kaiju, which would be awesome. And this thing just looks freaking fantastic. I was actually surprised that he turned out to be Australia's mech and not Japan's. Although I guess they already had China in there, so they didn't want to have two stereotypically Asian countries. Although, when I first saw this guy, I couldn't help but feel like I had seen him somewhere before. And it turns out that he looks almost exactly like this little mini-bot that I reviewed a long time ago. Yeah, check it out. They have the same shoulder spike thing going on. And look, if I zoom in, I mean, the proportions of the chest are almost the same. And even the shape of the head, that weird little triangle type thing. It's actually pretty weird. I'm wondering if this is just some kind of universal mech design, or if Guillermo del Toro pulled inspiration from some anime that this thing also pulled inspiration from, and I'm just not knowing what it is. But that's pretty out there, that this thing looks so familiar to something. I know, this toy is years old. I have no idea how old it is, but it's a long time ago. It's from back when my dog was still a puppy. I shouldn't have mentioned him, now I'm sad. But I will soldier on. So, let's take a quick look at his sculpt and paint job first. He has painted cockpit windows, which look really cool. If you look on the top of his head, you see that little access port that was in the movie, where the two pilots climbed out of it to take on the gigantic monster with a pair of flare guns after their 300-foot tall death robot was disabled. Yeah, and he said it was incredibly stupid, so he knew it was dumb. He's 201. I don't know what the number is supposed to mean, because he was the first and last of the Mark V Jaegers, is what they called him in the movie. So I can get if he's like the first in the series, but why would he be 2? Shouldn't it be 501? I'm not sure. Moving on down, we see, oh, by the way, his paint job, it's had this nice black wash put over it and is just rough enough to look like it's weathered. It doesn't look like a bad paint job. It's not like something all scuffed up. It just like looks like something that's huge and has been through a lot of action and has just been through simple chemical and physical weathering. It's really nice. And the sculpt carries on, like, you barely notice the joints. I mean, they are there. Let me zoom in on one. Yeah, you see, like, there's the joints in the elbow. It blends pretty seamlessly in there. I mean, the only way that a joint is really noticeable is here on the shoulder, where there's a pretty obvious stem. But I'll forgive that. Everything else, all the joints are just wonderfully hidden within the sculpt, and it just makes me wonder why they couldn't do this for Gypsy Danger to make the sculpt look natural without being too restrictive to all his. Sorry, that was my fault. The surface wasn't really very flat, and I had bent his knees, so he limboed backwards on me. Anyway, yeah, like I was saying, the joints are functional without messing up the sculpt, and vice versa. I wish that they had been able to do that with Gypsy Danger, but I guess since that was the first one in the series, they had to iron out some kinks. But yeah, like I said, amazingly accurate sculpt. He looks great. Let's talk about his articulation. How does Striker Eureka move? What can he do for you? Alright, let's turn him back around to the front. He has a head swivel. It's actually ball jointed. It goes about that far before you know, it feels like you can go farther. It's just that the collar is kind of getting in the way. Although the plastic is soft enough and stretchy enough that it has a little bit of give, I wouldn't try to turn it around all the way though, because you might tear it. It can also sort of tilt a little bit to the side, give him a vaguely contemplative look. Although why a 300-foot tall tank in the shape of a human would need to contemplate anything is mystery. Let's see, shoulders. This is actually pretty cool. He has a basic universal joint here that goes out this far, but then, and this was a surprise to me because it was a little bit paint stuck at first, he has a second shoulder joint inside of that allows his arm to go out even farther so that it's horizontal to the ground, parallel to the ground. That's really cool. I guess they were really trying to compensate for their mistakes with Gypsy Danger. Another thing that improves on Gypsy Danger is the elbow. He gets a full 90 degrees out of that elbow. Although his wrist is weird to me. There's no wrist rotation. Instead, there's a hinge that allows the hand to go inwards like that. I guess maybe that's to create the illusion that the hand is getting out of the way for these sweet arm blades, which are unarticulated hinges, and they swing around like they do in the movie. Yeah, let's get a close-up of these arm blades. By the way, these are the most dangerous arm blades I have ever had on a toy. They are extremely sharp and extremely stiff. I have actually used these things to slice an apple. They are that sharp. They will go right through an apple. This is an adult collector's toy, not something for little kids. And of course, he doesn't have any accessories, but these are articulated, and they are just kind of like stems in holes, so you can pull them out. I kind of wish the stem was a little bit longer, because it feels like they fall out too easily, but they're in there pretty good. Unless you're physically pulling them out, then they won't come out. Although I have had this bottom one fall, no, the top one falls out occasionally when I move it back onto the arm for storage mode. But you know, that's a very minor quibble. Okay, so we got past the arm articulation, which is head and shoulders above Gypsy Danger, no pun intended. Although I've seen Gypsy Danger has a really sweet ab crunch. This guy does not have an ab crunch. It's more just waist rotation. See? It's a good waist rotation, don't get me wrong. It's just that he can't really bend down. But yeah, he has really good waist rotation and a little tiny bit of ab crunch. The hips suffer somewhat from the same problem that Gypsy Danger's does, but not as badly. You can get them to go outwards only about this far before the armor starts to hit the hip skirt. And they can only go forward about this far, about 45 degrees, but they are a lot more free to go back, going back almost a full 90. So you can put this guy into a sprint if you gave him some support. He has knees. Knees have about 75 degrees of bend, and his ankles are ball jointed but feel really restricted. They can move only marginally forwards, but they can rotate like all the way around. And check out the sculpt on his feet. Am I catching the light in the right way? Hold on, let me see if I can get that in the light. Yeah, check out the foot sculpt. He's like wearing Sonic soap shoes. Actually, he has toes up here, but then he has a sole underneath his toes. I don't get that. Was that reflected in the actual movie design, or did they do that to give him something flatter to stand on for the toy? I'm not sure. Someone's gonna have to look at the 3D models and let me know that. All right, so let's get him situated back up here. And that movie had an awesome theme song. Yeah, Pacific Rim. If the guys from Top Gun were robot jocks and they fought Godzilla using Gurren Lagann, that's Pacific Rim. Or if you want to say it a little bit simpler, it's like Evangelion, except the protagonist isn't some whiny 14-year-old and there's no pointless Christian symbolism. Yeah, although I like the first one better because it sounds more positive. Alright, personal defect of my toy, one minor thing. This knee here looks like it's been out of alignment. I think the packaging messed up the plastic. Because you see, this leg is very straight. This one goes out, and then it goes straight down. I think something happened. Like, something messed up that knee joint. I haven't really been able to straighten it. But that's a very minor thing. The figure still stands fine. So, that is my review of Striker Eureka. My favorite mech from Pacific Rim, and a really, really cool toy. I mean, I never collect 8-inch action figures. I think that they're kind of too large to scale with anything that I own, but I had to get this guy because he is just that cool. And I don't care that he doesn't scale with anything because he's supposed to be the biggest freaking thing around. I love this thing. If you can find a Striker Eureka in stores, they sell them at Toys R Us. I'm not sure if they have them at other retailers. Get one. Absolutely get one. If you like a toy that's well articulated, but the asymmetrical design of Crimson Typhoon threw you off, then this guy is perfect. You will love this thing. Alright, so this is Toy Customizer Wakeangel2K1 signing off. Oh, by the way, they haven't got around to making it yet, but if NECA makes a figure of Cherno Alpha, you bet I'll buy it. After Striker Eureka, this was my second favorite in the movie. Just look at him. He's a gigantic walking tank. He almost looks like something that 3A Toys would make. Well, yeah, I really hope they get around to making him, and if they do, I'll get it.